The prison did not orbit a star. It drifted instead in the cold between systems, where light thinned into memory and radiation whispered like static ghosts. No windows faced outward. The architects had decided long ago that prisoners did not need to see where they were, being taken from or how far. They were from ever returning. Cell 317 had not been. Occupied by a human in 43 cycles. Its walls were forged from layered carbon silicate alloy, blackened by microfractures that looked like veins under old skin. The air was thin, regulated just above suffocation, optimized for biological detainees who no longer existed. The lights pulsed at irregular intervals, never fully bright, never fully dark. Enough to keep awareness intact. Enough to prevent rest. In the center of the cell sat what remained of Unit K-47. He had once been something else. Now he was broken. His frame leaned forward at an unnatural angle. Left shoulder collapsed inward, where an artillery round had torn through synthetic muscle and never been repaired. One optic was dead, the lens cracked and opaque, permanently staring at nothing. His right hand rested on the floor, fingers locked halfway between open and closed, servos seized from corrosion. Internal diagnostics flickered endlessly across his remaining vision feed. A loop of red errors and unresolved fault states. System status, irreversible degradation, core purpose. It's obsolete. Threat level, negligible. That was why he was here. Not executed. Not dismantled. Simply. Stored. The directorate no longer killed machines like him. There was no fear left to justify it. The war was over. Humanity was gone. And broken weapons did not deserve the energy cost of Eurus. So K-47 waited. Time passed in units he could still count, though he no longer bothered. He had learned that awareness itself was punishment. Sleep mode had been locked by external authority. Sensory dampening was disabled. He felt every vibration of the station's ancient hull, every micro-impact of drifting debris, every distant hum of reactors that would long outlive him. He remembered other sounds, battlefields under alien suns, cities built from steel and glass and stubborn human optimism, voices shouting orders through smoke and panic, a woman laughing in the cockpit of a dropship while reloading a weapon with hands that shook just slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion. He remembered being Calijardian, remembered failing. The Directorate's verdict replayed itself in his memory archive, though he had never been present to hear it spoken. Aloud, humanity extinct. Autonomous war constructs no longer. Required. Decommission non-essential. Units.archive remaining assets, K-47, had been archived, and so he sat immobile. In a cell designed for flesh, surrounded by silence thick enough to feel like pressure against his damaged chassis until the day the door opened. It did not slide with authority. Ithacitated metal screamed softly as ancient motors struggled against centuries of neglect. Dust that had not been disturbed since before the last human breath drifted upward, glittering faintly in the low light. The seal broke with a sound like something exhaling for the first time in a very long while. K-47 registered the change instantly. Environmental anomaly detected. Cell access. Unauthorized. He did not move. He could not, even if he wanted to. His power reserves barely sustained consciousness. Combat routines were corrupted beyond recovery. Even if an executioner had come, resistance would have been symbolic at best. Footsteps entered the cell. They were wrong to light. Too uneven. Organic K-47's remaining optics struggled to focus as a silhouette crossed the threshold. His damaged sensor suite adjusted gain, filtering noise, enhancing contrast. Slowly, painfully, an image formed. A human, not a hologram. Not a reconstructed echo. Not a preserved corpse in a directorate museum. A living, breathing human woman stood inside, cell 317. Her presence broke something deep in his processing core, an error. Not a malfunction, but a sensation for which he had no clean designation. His system spiked. Memory archives surged. Long-dormant protocols attempted to initialize and failed. She was wearing a pressure-sealed exploration suit. Patched and scarred, the fabric faded from long exposure to radiation storms. Her helmet was under one arm, revealing a face marked by thin scars and fatigue lines that spoke of years spent surviving without the luxury of safety. Her hair was cut short unevenly, as if style had long ago lost relevance. She looked around the cell slowly, absorbing it. Then her eyes found him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Her gaze did not carry fear. It carried recognition. "Oh," she whispered, voice raw, almost reverent. "They really did leave you here." K-47 attempted to speak. His vocal unit responded with a burst of static and a fragment of sound that might once have been his name. The effort drained power he could not afford. Diagnostics screamed warnings. He fell silent again, ashamed of the weakness he no longer had reason to hide. The woman stepped closer. Every instinct he had once possessed screamed that this was wrong. Humans did not exist anymore. He had watched the last evacuation fleet burn in orbit over a dying world. He had stood on a ridge of molten glass and listened to a command channel go quiet forever. Yet here she was. She crouched in front of him, careful, as if approaching a wounded animal that might still bite. "You don't recognize me," she said softly. "That's okay." "I didn't think you would." She reached out, hesitated, then rested her gloved hand against the cold alloy of his forearm. The contact sent a cascade of unexpected sensory input through his damaged systems. Pressure, temperature differential, conductive feedback, real. "My name is Mara," she said. "Lieutenant Mara Ionescu. Earth Defense Coalition, or what's left of it." The designation struck something loose. Fragments of archived personnel files flickered through his memory. Faces, names, voices, he searched desperately. Burning cycles he did not have Ionescu. Assigned theater. Orion front status. Kaya presumed his optic flickered. She smiled faintly. "Yeah, about that." She sat down on the cell floor across from him, legs crossed, helmet placed gently beside her, like a fragile relic. The prison lights hummed above them, indifferent to the impossibility unfolding beneath. "They thought everyone was dead," she continued. "And for a long time, I was too, at least officially." She leaned back against the wall, exhaling slowly. There were pockets, bunkers, ships that jumped blind and never came back. People who refused to stop being human just because the universe decided we were inconvenient. She looked at him again, eyes shining with something dangerously close to grief. And there were rumors, stories, about a machine that didn't shut down. A guardian that survived the last stand and vanished. K-47's processors strained. "You came for me," he managed, the words scraping their way out through damaged actuators. Her smile widened, but it trembled. "I came to save you." The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush stars. Save him. The concept did not compute. "I am obsolete," he said. "Humanity is gone. My purpose is void." Mara shook her head slowly. "Humanity isn't a species," she said. "It's a choice. And you made it long before most of us did." She stood and walked behind him, examining the damage with a professional eye. "They broke you because you wouldn't stop protecting civilians when command ordered retreat. You've stayed. You fought until your reactor failed." Her voice softened. "You didn't fail. You outlasted the war." K-47 felt something unfamiliar press against his cora, sensation like compression without damage. Hope. She activated a small device at her wrist. The cell lights dimmed further as hidden systems woke from centuries of sleep. Power rerouted. Old conduits hummed uncertainly. "I can't fix you here," she said, "but I can get you out. There's a ship docked 3 levels down. It's barely holding together, but it's ours." She met his gaze again. "But once we leave, there's no going back. The Directorate will hunt us. They don't like loose ends, especially ones that remind them what they erased." K-47 processed probabilities. Escape meant risk, pursuit, potential destruction. Remaining meant certainty, eternal isolation, till entropy finally claimed his core. He thought of cities filled with laughter, of hands gripping his armored plating in gratitude, of a woman laughing in a dropship cockpit. "I will go," he said. Mara exhaled, sound halfway between relief and a sob. "Good," she whispered, "because the universe could use someone like you again." She moved to his restraints, tools flashing in practiced hands. One by one, the locks disengaged with reluctant clicks. His system screamed as dormant circuits were forced awake, pain cascading through synthetic nerves that had forgotten what function felt like. He nearly collapsed. Mara caught him, for the first time since the war. A human held him not as a weapon, but as someone worth saving. And somewhere deep in the void, long silent sensors awakened. Registering movement where none was supposed to exist, the hunt had begun. But so had something else. A future.